see.
Cliff.
Hello?
Yes, sorry about that.
It's all right. Trying to get some stuff settled out here. Do we have video?
Okay, I'll have to. Oh, here we go. My first time on Zoom.
It's kind of cool. It's a good platform. So you're Mark?
Yes, sir.
And it's like 5 or 6 o'clock there, p.m.?
Yeah, 6 p.m. Yes, I'm in Cape Town, South
Oh,
Africa.
Okay. So on that side of the country then. Okay. And are you the only participant?
Yes, Brian's right over here, but I'm the only one speaking today.
Oh, okay. All right then. I've only got an hour, so let's jump into some of this stuff here, and let's start from the inside out. Okay. So talk to me about your the formation of the coin and these disparate level nodes.
Mm-hmm.
What was the thinking there?
Yes, well, the proof of concept is our first crypto metal one. It will be a smart contract which represents 1 gram of to be extracted and delivered gold. And then we are going to sell that into the marketplace for cryptocurrency. And then
And this is on Ethereum?
Yes, we're going to do the first coin on the Ethereum network.
Okay.
And going forward, we're pretty flexible as to what either the miners want to accept or anything that, like, we can go on the new economy movement smart contract basis, but the first one will be on the Ethereum virtual machine. Okay,
and so you're not now. And so the getting back to the 2 nodes part of it, there's a sort of, if I understand it, a dealer node,
a private broker node, and we're creating 2008 private brokers. And the idea is that they will be the first ones to participate in the proof of concept. And then in the future, they will be the toll booth into our platform. And they will be the ones attracting energy, and then they will receive a commission based upon the energy flow across their node. And then they will be able to basically attract individuals to then purchase metal to be extracted and delivered contracts with cryptocurrency. And then they will receive a commission on the energy across their node.
Okay, so they're getting, and what's the size of the commission?
Well, it will be determined by the MetalZoom partners based upon each specific contract. And we roughly have it at 0.5% to 2.5% of the total gross transaction.
Okay. All right. And so we're going to sort of jump around a little bit. So back to the construction part of all of this then. Neural nets are not involved. You're just using your neural net experience as your technical chops, so to speak.
Correct. Yes.
Oh, okay. So you're going to be developing in Solidity or Serpent or something for your Ethereum contract.
Yes, for the first one will be Solidity, and we actually have a partnership with a Russian firm, SME Chrysoft, That way we can, they're going to help us and provide some verification for our smart contract because they've done it before.
Oh, okay. You don't have, do you or don't you have a programmer yet on that?
We do right now, yes.
Okay.
And that, yes.
Okay. So, all right. So we can eliminate the neural nets. Good. I was kind of confused by all of that. Okay. So in this sense, then, the distributor or dealer level node um, is to be thought of as sort of a miner in that sense, in terms of mining the cryptos or processing the cryptos, or how does the node aspect of that come in?
Well, the node is more just a word that I use to try to, it's more of a toll booth. If we think of like a Morgan Stanley, or they're the brokers and they're the ones attracting the clients and then to participate in the stock market.
I got you. So you don't really have a two-tier token setup.
Correct.
Oh, okay. All right. It was a little confusing in reading through the material. Okay. So that made it a little bit more difficult to understand. Okay. So this is one of these, so you're going to use these, well, actually define them, the people that are getting the business. What are they doing now?
And okay, they are, well, the people who are doing business, they go directly to the mining executives at the large scale miners. And they're the brokers that basically purchase the raw doré or the semi-refined metal. And then they're the ones that on their private ledger transact and then ship the metal to the end user and the industrial user.
And you expect, so you're attempting to get an existing cadre of people that are doing this work now to participate on your system, still doing the same kind of work, basically.
Yes, and we think either they will come to us or we can go and advertise to them to bring them to us. What we're doing is trying to bring any entrepreneurs who see the advantage of future metal sales through token contracts with cryptocurrency, to attract them, and then they will be kind of the first movers in this. And then in the future, they could either sell their private broker node or delegate the responsibility to somebody else who has more experience and connections, because they were not the first mover and the first mover advantage.
Right. And then in this case, then conceptually, it would be very akin to purchasing a seat on the stock market. The ability to trade basically is what you're purchasing when you set up at that level as a broker.
Yes.
Okay, so so explain to me how the brokers benefit the individual coin holders. So you're gonna have tokens. Your MetalZoom token will be sold in the open market. It'll be an ICO ERC 20 or 23. Is it created yet?
No, not yet. So the Crypto Metal 1 token is the first, will be the Ethereum token. And that will, yes, the first one will not have private brokers. Essentially, we are the private brokers advertising and proving the concept out, and then showing them that when we have miners and we have more metal to tokenize, you will be able to receive a commission off those sales by attracting individuals to purchase the in-ground metal to be delivered to them in the future.
Okay, so then would it be fair to say that in so doing, they're taking a commission from anybody that was holding one of your MetalZoom tokens?
No, not essentially. These will be, in the future, will be new tokens being issued from new mines coming onto the platform and new known metal in the ground that we, our analysis and our geologists and metallurgists give us the thumbs up that we can tokenize this amount and we can extract it and then deliver it. So they will essentially be receiving a commission, kind of like a real estate broker. They will be getting some of the energy flow to the miner themselves. And that's why the variable amount of commissions, we don't want to set it at a certain price and then kind of shoot ourselves in the foot in the future by not enabling the miner to receive enough energy to extract the metal.
And you say receive enough energy, so you expect the receipt of energy aspect of this to be the value-added part of the token, so to speak. in the sense that the token does it from end to end and could be, in a conceptual sense, converted to the electricity or diesel or whatever it was that was required to get the metal out of the ground.
Well, so when I say transfer the energy to the miner, I mean the cryptocurrency. I view cryptocurrencies as an energy derivative. And so that way, and then of course, as they use that energy derivative in cryptocurrency to pay the miners or pay for gasoline, then they will be able to extract the metal, and then the metal will be delivered to burn or distinguish the token that was used to transact the cryptocurrency to obtain that token.
Okay, all right. Okay, so I understand how that's working. So let's take a second and go into some of the other stuff here. So who are your geologists that are going to be vetting these mines?
Yeah, so we have one company is Menisco, and then actually I was meeting with an Anglo Gold Ashanti head geologist, and he's left Anglo Gold Ashanti now. I was meeting with him last week, and so we also, Brian really has the network of geologists, and he's been doing this for 7 years at the right-sized mining scale. So leveraging his network throughout Africa and the United States and Canada, we will be able to bring those geologists to us, and then they will help us identify, and get through the pre-feasibility and feasibility studies more efficiently to be able to go extract the metal.
Okay, so again, though, that doesn't. So all right, so basically, the question could be rephrased and put this way: the geologist who will be vetting the mines that are and saying, yes, we've got X amount of gold in the ground, are in fact in-house employees.
Yes, they will be. And we can also hire consultants from other companies. And that's what AR Gold does right now, is they hire external consultants with geologists and metallurgists to assay and verify.
Yeah, but we want to talk about MetalZoom, and we can get into this larger construction thing you guys have going there in a bit. Okay, so you're going to have in-house geologists that are going to say that there's 5 tons of gold at this level of purity in this particular hole in the ground, and from that you're going to be able to then say we can tokenize that amount of metal. Is that the idea?
Yes.
Okay, so how are you going to, when you tokenize the metal, how is the cost of extraction being calculated?
It will be calculated in a net metal production. So for example, with right-size mining right now, it costs about a third of the gold that you extract.
Yeah, let's not go there. Let's let's talk about the diesel, the labor, the overhead, etc. Okay, as opposed to using someone else's metric for this. How are you going to calculate those costs and figure them into the price or into the value of the tokens when they're released? In other words, you could find yourself in this situation. You go to Bob's Bare Ground and he says, I've got gold here. Your geologists say, yeah, there's gold here. We think there's, 5,000 ounces, whatever, it doesn't matter. And then you calculate your cost, or Bob's Bare Metal Ground, his cost of extraction. But what if you're really, really, really wrong? And therefore, the tokens you sold on that 5,000 ounces in the ground, based on an extraction cost of, say, $400 per ounce, and in fact, the extraction costs go to $800, $1,600, $2,000 an ounce. And your tokens, when they were initially let out, are thus devalued by whatever multiple of error is inbuilt into the extraction cost. Did I explain that correctly?
Yeah, I understand that. There will be a probability of delivery for the tokens, and we will provide the data from our extraction processes on to the crowd that has the token holders, and that way they can monitor the probability that they will receive their token or receive the delivery of the metal from their token. And luckily, Cliff.
So a risk or an experience rating. Then that's what I was getting at. You're going to have so on Bob. You've just started doing business with Bob's Bare Metal Ground, and so his experience rating is 0. You guys don't know if you can trust him. You trust your geologists. They say there's 5,000 ounces in there, and you trust your math for expected cost of extraction for Bob's 5,000 ounces. but he has no experience rating in terms of actually running a mine. What if he, is very bad at it, and thus is not very good. He wastes time and money and so on. His experience rating would be expected to go into the negative category then in any kind of a monitored system. But for those initial guys who bought the tokens for Bob's ground, they may not be able to get the 5,000 ounces at any cost because Bob may run his mine into the ground as a business. You see the point?
I see the point. Yes, sir. And the unique thing about MetalZoom is we will also offer insurance contracts that are deliverable in metal. So if we sell Bob's gold in the ground across our exchange, we can also, based upon our analysis and our risk analysis in-house and the mines that we have currently producing, we can determine the insurance based upon Bob's experience and our knowledge of the region in which he's extracting the metal. We can also sell the insurance contracts to basically, Bob, if Bob has less experience, his tokens will cost less to begin with. He won't be able, the probability of extraction is going to be lower, so therefore he can only sell his tokens for cheaper, essentially, to start his mining process, and then he has to gain more experience going if he going, and then we can sell the insurance contracts so the consumer knows that, yeah, I know Bob has less experience, but okay, I'll give MetalZoom insurance, and then we handle the margins, and then that would be on us and our experience in managing the margins and delivering.
Okay, so at this stage, then you're the issuing party for the insurance. You're the underwriter at that stage, and you intend to sell insurance to the token holders, or is this just to provide a guesstimate of risk?
Both. Yeah, exactly. A guesstimate of risk, and then based upon our analysis, and also to enable the token holder to know that they're going to get their metal either from Bob or from us.
Gotcha. Okay. So I take it then you guys have got super deep pockets. You've got a huge pool of funds somewhere for this insurance pool on even your first operation. And let me ask, how much are you setting aside? Say that Bob is brand new, he has zero experience, but he's got 5,000 ounces theoretically in the ground. What's your expected level of insurance coverage? How much are you going to set aside to cover that?
That will be dependent upon our risk analysis.
No, I meant formulistic. I didn't mean dollar-wise. Just give me a guesstimate.
Well, it would have to depend. And of course, we might have the insurance coming from a pool of mines and a portfolio of mines that leverage the insurance. And then maybe it would be, 25% we would want to hold aside right away, and then have our own mining operations from MetalZoomEnergy's production, that if we have continuous production that we're storing our energy in, or our metal is being stored, that in our vaults, people would know that we have metal in our vaults that we can deliver on those insurance contracts.
So in that sense, you're a competitor to Bob.
Yeah,
because you're also digging metal.
Well, so I don't really see any metal miners competing against each other. In my opinion, if we promote the product, then every miner essentially has their own mine, and they have their own net metal that they're going to produce. And at the end of the day, if he's selling metal and I'm selling metal, he's selling gold and I'm selling gold, we're not really competing, because really MetalZoomEnergy is going to advertise that everyone should be storing their excess energy in silver, in gold, and in precious metals, in that way, because that's the best way to store your energy, in our opinion. And by advertising to other people that we will bring more people to have interest in silver and gold, and that way we will not.
You mean, okay, so when you say store there, you're talking about at a retail level. You're talking about people holding individual gold coins and stuff. You're not talking wholesale.
Correct.
Okay,
but
and
we
so
can also do it on a wholesale level, and the private brokers are designed as well to go and target industry. And so if someone can go to Apple and say, you need this metal, you need silver, 1 million ounces of silver per year for the next 10 years, you can come, we can tokenize the metal, just have one specific mine or pool of mines delivering to that individual party. And then they can buy insurance from us as well, or they can pick the different mines to go with based upon the experience.
There's a real problem with that relative to may not be an impact to you if there's USA people forbidden. But if you were to do that, you're tokenizing future production, so it instantly becomes a security and would be thus regulated by the SEC. It would be no different than offering a hedge on future production on a mine to Apple.
Yeah, I disagree with you, Cliff. I have a business attorney, and we've been talking. You know, if you have a contract for delivery of metal, not necessarily, it's not a security. It doesn't settle in debt currency. So, in our opinion, every security is settled in debt currency.
Now, there is that. Okay, I grant you that. That's a valid point, that if it's not dealing in a sovereign-issued debt-based fiat, then it basically is not a security. Now, whether or not SEC and the government bodies are going to recognize this, that's a different issue. That's one of those things you've got to come up to. Okay, so let's get back to this whole thing here. So basically, I've got to trust your ability to hire a good geologist who's not bribable. I've got to trust your ability to pick out a good hole in the ground for somebody to extract the gold, and I've got to trust that you're not in competition with the token holders. So, for instance, if you found a super good mine, what's to keep MetalZoom production from like buying it, so to speak, surreptitiously and cutting out the tokenized aspect of it? In other words, going right into ownership of the mine themselves, as opposed to setting up a funding mechanism for Bob to own his own mine. You see, we're fraught with issues around the trust aspect of it there. Because you own your own geologist, because you're issuing the insurance policies, we have to trust that indeed you've got the deep pockets and the capital reserves to cover them. So there's a lot of anti-metaphor, anti-paradigm stuff there, in the sense that the cryptocurrency world is all about not needing trust, right? It's all about being transparent at that level.
Trust is trust.
So yeah, so exactly.
In my opinion, I agree with you that decentralized cryptocurrencies enable the trustless trust of the transfer of value. Now, we are using that to transfer the value to the miner, and then we will provide the trust and help the miner to extract the metal. And then we are setting ourselves up as the counterparty to trust, so the consumer knows that they will have the delivery of the metal. It's very important. That's why we have the MetalZoom honor code, which is, I will not lie, steal, or cheat. I will not tolerate anyone else who lies, steals, or cheat.
Sure. I hear that. You know, it's a nice little Boy Scout oath. I grant you that, but it's not backed up by personalities. Brian has a terrible reputation. He's lied. He's cheated. He's got newspaper articles to that effect. He's got people out there saying that he owes them large amounts of money. There was the failed mine deal with Vantage, 1.1 or 1.2 million, 1.5 million left on the hook. Employees not paid for months. Chaos reigns wherever Brian goes. So in this sense, you're saying, trust me, and sort of ignore the fact that my partner's got 6 pending fraud indictments against him. I mean, that's where we're at, Guy. You're not basing anything on a trustless system here. It's kind of like the big barn con, okay? I see your barn. I see the MetalZoom page. I see its connection over to AR Gold. But if you investigate AR Gold, there's nothing there but weasel words. There's pie in the sky ideas about using lasers to extract the metal in the ground, which is like, that ain't going to happen at all.
That's future, we believe.
Yeah, then why put it in there? It's not, it's an attempt to provide the big barn scam, right? I come onto your property, you're going to sell me this barn. I've got these animals I've got to house. I have an instant need for it. I'm pressed by time. And you're going to sell me this giant, huge, nice, pretty red barn. I can see it sitting over there. It's great. You got people telling me how great it all is. And then I go and I open up the door. And in fact, I see animals coming out of it. It looks great. But if I go on over to that barn, it's 1 layer deep. That's all. There's nothing there. There's no there. Now, in this case, we've got an issue of Brian having a very nasty record. And as I understand it, your history brings you to at least one failed gold endeavor. So why should I trust your acumen for picking a good hole in the ground, knowing how much is in there, being able to pick a good geologist, any of this? You've got that. You've basically set yourself up as the trust linchpin in this operation. You've put a lot of decent words into your white paper, but there's no there. You don't have a team. The people that are cited are sports individuals that are PR kind of guys. There's no references to technical ability. There's no there as far as I can see. And this is the real issue with it. I thought maybe there was a a possibility you had a very astute kind of a technical breakthrough. And I see that that's not the case. That in fact, what you're attempting to do is you're going to set up a scheme here where you're going to try and have a two-tier operation. The coins are going to fund everything, and you're going to be paying a commission on all these salespeople that you don't have, and you're going to try and get them to take these coins and everything as their commission for rounding up and moving metal back and forth through your system. So you're instantly in competition with the existing system, and as I can see, there's nothing there no leverage. There's no attraction for someone who might be in that system to swap over. And then in addition, like I say, you've got all this trust pinning on you. Frankly, I don't trust you. I don't believe you guys have the money. I don't think Brian has the money to back 25% of Bob's 5,000 ounces. I don't think that either one of you guys know how to write or set an international insurance policy, nor how long it'll take. And also we're looking at a situation of where, say that you found Bob, he had his 500,000 ounces, doesn't matter how much gold, and you're absolutely sure that that's the case. And then you tokenize it. What's the time from discovery to production on any level of a gold mine, including expansion? I hear all this stuff about the right size mining, but again, there's no there. All of that goes back to Brian. Brian has a very bad reputation.
So I disagree with that. And I know you can go in the past and look up some people who've said some things about Brian.
A year ago, not the past, not deep past, a year ago. And it wasn't just some people, it was organizations that he dealt with, that he left, that he stiffed for $1.5 million. The people that were there were promised that they would be paid for months during that process. Did not occur. This is facts that are reported in a number of independent newspapers, not related to each other. Now, they may have got the facts wrong. If so, now's the time to say, hey, it didn't happen that way. It didn't go down that way.
Was, for example, Brian's just closing one deal right now with a gentleman from Zurich, and it's been 6 months, and they've been doing their due diligence to verify the mines and the operations, and the deal is about to close at the end of the month.
Okay, say that they closed. Okay, say that they closed and that everything's legit. How long before that mine comes into actual production?
You know, in Tanzania, because they're using the mine dumps and the tailings, really, it's about 6 to 8 weeks to get operational and extracting gold from the ground.
Into production?
Yes.
Okay, and you're going to basically be scavenging off of tailings of existing mine material. So you don't have to dig a hole or any of that business.
It's kind of it's 3 layers in Tanzania specifically. There's the tailings, which is old, and then there are gravels because of the veins have weathered over time, and so the gravel beds. And then there's veins in the ground that you can dig down. So, and those have a higher concentration, a higher ore grade. So combining the 3, you get you can standardize your ore grade and then assay it before you extract it, and then you end up with.
And what's the expected operational profit on the tailings? Well,
if you we combine all 3 together and then process it, and it's about, as I said, 60% gross margin.
Okay, so all right, but just the tailings, because that's the only thing that's going to be off the ground, literally,
the gravel
in the first 6 or 8 weeks. You're not going to be digging holes 8 weeks in.
So right now there are holes already dug in Tanzania, and they've done a lot of the analysis, and they have identified. Currently, right now they're producing 50,000 ounces of gold, and they have about 2 million in situ in Tanzania, based upon previous drilling holes by junior miners, and then going in and assaying both the gravel beds and the tailings. Are able to identify.
So there's an existing gold mine in Tanzania that Brian's in the process of trying to buy.
No, they currently produce from 5 gold mines. Yes, he says 5 gold mines they're currently producing from, and they're working with the locals, and they buy the tailings piles, ship the tailings to the location of the gravel beds and the underground mine, and then they figure out the ore grade and then process the metal and extract the metal.
Sure, and that's all happening now?
Yes.
Okay, and Brian's trying to buy it?
No, they own the operation right now. AR Gold owns the operation, and MetalZoomEnergy will buy the operations from AR Gold.
And AR Gold is in negotiation with this Swiss dude for what?
So for a piece of another mine. AR Gold has a number of operations that are sitting and ready to be funded. The issue is it's impossible right now to fund small scale or mid-tier mines because the banks require a NI 43-101, which requires drilling and a pre-feasibility study. And so basically the debt banks have cut off the funding sources from the mid-tier and smaller mines. And now we're going in there and enabling the cryptocurrency to help the miners extract the metal.
Okay. And so MetalZoom, the idea is that MetalZoom would then create the token and give the token to AR Gold, Brian's company, in exchange for the ownership of the mines and stuff.
No, we're going to use the cryptocurrency to acquire all the operations of AR Gold, and AR Gold.
So you're going to buy out AR Gold.
Yes.
Okay, so then now we're back to trust again. So now you're saying that the value in MetalZoom will be buying out AR Gold as soon as you can raise enough money to meet Brian's price. And you're going to convert the cryptocurrencies into debt-based in order to give Brian, in order to buy.
Correct. And Brian's the CEO and executive and leading shareholder. And so we're going to pay off the AR Gold investors and acquire their shares, and then Brian will accept the tokenized metal in the ground in the future as his payment. So all the shareholders in AR Gold are settled, and then we also had, so that's just one operation that we will.
What kind of money are we talking? What kind of money are we talking there to buy out the shareholders in AR Gold?
It's about $5.5 million.
And how many of them are there?
I don't know specifically the number.
You would think if you're going to pay out $5.5 million to somebody, you'd better find out that number. You'd better know who you're paying it out to. You know, how do you know you're not being scammed and these aren't all Brian's cousins? This is the thing. It comes back to, do you trust Brian? You do, but I don't know that the rest of the world does, right? It's going to be a hard sell. It's going to be a real hard sell because MetalZoom doesn't have anything of its own. Okay, all MetalZoom is, as I can see, is a vehicle for selling the big barn. And Brian's got the big barn and he's painted it out. He's got some kind of documentation that he's going to proffer and so on. But since Brian has a very tainted reputation at best, is 73 years old. He ran Afro-Can, which was Africa Canadian mining operations, and used that as a vehicle for scamming people in a couple of different countries in Africa. That's the reputation, but that's the reputation that comes across, see? So it doesn't matter the reality anymore, because you guys are not addressing that reputation at all. You're basing everything in MetalZoom on dealing with Brian. Cut him out of the picture, drop him totally, and go and try and buy another mine using this scheme, this approach, and you might have something valid. But basically it looks from the outside as though this is a way for raising money in a crypto scam that will take a number of months, that will eventually, the goal of it is to pay Brian off and acquire AR Gold, but we don't know that AR Gold actually runs anything. I'm not able to ascertain anything on the internet that says AR Gold owns squat. Okay, then when I start getting it, I'm sorry?
It's a private company.
Yeah, okay, it's a private company, but even private companies leave trails, all right? When you do things, private companies show up as being the purchaser, as being, when did Brian buy these 5 gold mines? When did he acquire them? The ones you're going to buy?
I believe one of them last year. I don't know all the details.
Well, you should. I mean, are you the CEO of MetalZoom?
Yes. So
okay, and so you don't know any of the details about the person you intend paying $5.5 million to. You don't. If, in my opinion, if I were going to pay out $5.5 million, especially if someone else's money, I would know everything about each and every one of these mines to the point I could just sit here and just spit out facts for hours just to prove to you that I've done my due diligence and I've seen them. Have you actually gone and seen any of these mines, you personally?
So there are external companies that have done that. And
no. So you have not. You have not.
I have not. No, I have not gone.
Okay, so you're trusting Brian, and then you expect us to trust you.
No, that's not true.
Who are you trusting?
So there's Mexico. There are external third party people that have done assays and have done the drilling and have verified the existence of the metal in the ground.
Okay, but do they verify that AR Gold owns it? You're
Yes,
saying
they
these are
work directly with
you're
AR Gold.
okay.
The contract
These are
will be with AR
surveyors.
Gold to do the assaying on the specific properties.
Okay,
And then,
and so you're trusting these people. You've met these guys, these
no, not yet.
assayers. You've
No,
never met them, but you're trusting a sheet of paper from them saying that AR Gold owns these 5 mines.
So I've met some other people in the operation, not those specific people at Minesco. I've also discussed with a family office who knew, not related to Brian, but knew the Minesco individuals, and that they trust the Minesco individuals outside of that. So it's usually kind of an interconnected network.
And you have documentation from these guys about the 5 mines?
Yes.
Okay, what does the documentation entail?
Well, it entails assays and maps of locations, and then the regions in which the tailings piles, and then the.
Does it have a title, ownership? Does it have taxing authority? Who's going to tax it? Who they're currently taxing? How much right now does AR Gold pay in annual taxes? If you don't know, you better find out, because you're going to be paying it.
Yes, and yeah, they pay royalty in the metal.
Yeah, but they've got to pay taxes to the local taxing authority. That's where everything runs down. I can't find that AR Gold has paid taxes to any country. Name me a country that AR Gold is paying taxes in.
Hold on one second, sir. The issue with taxes is they're paid in debt currency.
I don't care about that. I want proof that Brian owns something. So yes, they're paid in debt currency. He's paying out debt currency to somebody. He's using South African rand. He's using US dollars, Canadian dollars, whatever the hell. He's using a fiat debt currency somewhere to pay taxes now to an authority, or he has no ownership. AR Gold should be able to show you a tax receipt online, printed out somehow for the last quarter. Okay, these taxes are not let on an annual basis. These taxes are quarterly. I've looked, I've checked, I've talked to the people in South Africa. Nobody there has received taxes from AR Gold, so maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's in some other country. Maybe it's Tanzania. That's fine. Tell me which 5 countries or which countries he's paying taxes into, so that we can go and check that he actually owns something. Otherwise, it's coming across that you're very trustworthy and perhaps quite deluded, because you don't know any of the facts. You don't know how many. Tell me right now, which countries are these gold mines in?
In Tanzania.
All of them are in Tanzania?
Yes.
All 5?
Yes.
How many hectares do they involve?
I don't know that specific information.
Okay, when was the last tax payment that was made to Tanzania?
I don't know that specific information.
Okay, well, see, there's the thing, guy. If you're going to run a business, you got to know this specific information. I know when I pay my taxes. Why, Brian's sitting right there. Ask him, when was the last time he paid taxes? And can he give us some kind of a tax authority number?
When's the last time you paid taxes in Tanzania?
And what was the amount?
Yeah, and what was the amount? He wants to know what the taxes are.
I just want proof of ownership, see?
Okay,
and that's
definitely.
a real easy proof of ownership.
For sure. And
you can show me titles. You can show me titles, and I'll go check them.
Okay. The contracts are there with the locals as well. Also, if you exclude AR Gold, we're also working with other miners as well in Bos Congo.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter about that, because MetalZoom is 100% dependent on AR Gold. This is a variant on the big barn scam, because you're saying that your very first acquisition is going to be to buy out Brian and pay off this $5.5 million and acquire these 5 mines in Tanzania that I personally don't think exist. Okay. And I'll check with Tanzanian government later today, probably tomorrow, and we'll see what the taxing authority says there about AR Gold. But I know that Afro-Can has got a really nasty reputation with a number of states in Africa, and that was Brian's incarnation last year. So he must have cleaned his act up. Last July was when that payment was due, so he must have in August. From that point on, he must have cleaned his act up, reincarnated or created a new business, AR Gold, and established it with some funding somehow that would have allowed him to purchase those 5 mines in that year, because he didn't own them before that, did he?
Yes, they were trying to take the company public and do a public listing, and then it fell apart when the Tanzanian government changed the royalty payments on the gold themselves, and it lost.
Okay, so he owned these 5 mines prior to 2016.
I can't confirm with that. I'll have to get back to you, Cliff.
And how long has Brian been gold mining?
7 years now. And he's been in the mining industry.
Okay, 7 years. And prior to that, He's your primary founder. He's your partner. You've got
Yeah,
AR Gold as the chief link from your website from MetalZoom. AR Gold is basically a very shallow website. There's no depth there. Both of these things are extremely new, extremely recent. And you're saying that we should trust the creation of your coin and your effort here because you're going to buy out Brian's 5 mines, but you can't prove he owns them, and you can't prove you know enough about what you're potentially paying the money out on.
we'll do due diligence, and then also we're also bringing other miners as well and then launch their operations. For example,
Yeah,
today,
but you have to understand that gold mining, silver mining does not have a really pristine reputation in the business world. It's constantly full of things, right? I've personally been involved in a silver mine where everybody was 100% honest. We went into it thinking that we could mine silver there, and the deal crapped out on us in about 5 months. Not only was the assay not really accurate, it wasn't well done, but then there was also the taxing authority that was going to essentially say, no, we don't want this kind of operation here, no matter what you do. And so none of us would have known that going in. And it took us about 5 months to crap out. So we're in a situation where you're going to buy this, you're going to raise a bunch of money from a token sale. You're going to buy existing mines that we can't prove that he owns by paying him $5.5 million. Where and when is the value to be returned to the token holders? I mean, if you're saying 8 weeks after you own it, you're going to be in production, I would dispute that, because even running currently, it's going to take you 8 weeks to do an effective swap over, to decide who you're going to hire, who you're going to fire, etc. Unless you're just assuming you're going to be able to retain all of his employees. How many employees does AR Gold have?
They have people on site. Brian, how many employees does AR Gold have? You know, each site is they work with the locals, so they don't count the locals as employees. So it would be a handful of individuals in country managing the locals and then managing the transportation of the metal.
So he doesn't pay the locals. They work for free.
No, they pay the locals, and they purchase the tailings from the locals as well.
Okay, but he doesn't include any of the people that are in Tanzania as his employees. They're locals, and somehow he goes and just hands money to locals. There's no firm there, no organization to pay these people. So in other words, you're saying basically to me that each mine is somehow independent, run by some person that is not associated with AR Gold, and they pay their local employees, and somehow AR Gold is in charge of supervising them or taking their product from them, but AR Gold doesn't really own the mine.
No, AR Gold owns the concessions and has a deal with the locals to purchase the tailing piles and then transport the tailing piles.
I got it. So you don't own the gold mine. You have a concession from the government to extract material if you can get it and give them a royalty. And it's a percentage deal, but you don't own any land, and thus you don't have any employees or any overhead that way.
Yeah, you don't own any land in Tanzania. You own the concessions for the mineral rights.
Okay, and you've in turn, and so has AR Gold leased those concessions, or they're just operating the concessions?
Do you have to lease the concessions, or operating the concessions? Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's right. Okay, so the concessions are owned by the locals.
I got it. Okay, so he doesn't even own so you're going to pay him $5.5 million for mines he doesn't own, and for concessions he doesn't own. He's got a contract with the locals to buy their production, basically.
No, it's not their production. They help. They already own. They've already paid the locals to own certain joint ventures with the locals into the metal production.
Okay, now don't use that word. If it's a joint venture, then where does AR Gold show up in a register with a local firm in Tanzania? Where can I go? Which city will show me?
So it's not a joint venture. It's an agreement to fund the locals to let them start mining metal, and then
just like the mines that crapped out in 2016 when Afrocan came on in and said, yeah, we'll keep this mine going. We'll provide $2.25 million or $2.5 million over the following couple of months, and everything will be hunky-dory, and none of that ever materialized. And in the meantime, that was used as leverage to extract investments from locals there. And that's what's got Brian in trouble with the fraud investigations. So this is exactly the same structure as you had existent with Brian, only now he's got you as his front man.
Well, and also we're working with
No. Don't skip over it. He's putting you in danger. Okay.
Okay.
This guy at the moment he's under investigation for fraud charges, for being a con artist. And he's got you now as his front piece. He won't even come on in here and sit down and talk to me. All right. He won't talk to anybody relative to that. And he doesn't answer any of the questions about his previous history, which if he was legitimate, he can say, yeah, I fucked up royal. I really screwed over. I made terrible mistakes, blah, 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 but I've learned and now I'm progressing onward. I've done that. I've had a lot of business failures. Okay. There's no shame in failing. But this guy is not failing. He's conning people at this stage. That's what I can see. And he's using you as his new front person. So you're either part of the con or you're deluded enough to think that he's legitimate. You've fallen for, you're his willing victim and he's a sociopath. And you're going to be the one that takes the heat. You know, if you're in a poker game and you can't figure out who the patsy is, it's you. And that's what I'm doing is I'm looking at the patsy right now. Okay. So far, you don't have a coin. You don't have any unique effort there. What you've attempted to, or what somebody has attempted to do, is to try and involve my predictive linguistics by matching my linguistic sets and putting up some stuff on AR Gold they think does that, and it does not, and it's not that easily used, and they're trying to involve me in this, and this is why I didn't want to get involved with MetalZoom. I've known about Brian since you guys first popped up. You annoyed the crap out of me by trying to get me to talk to you and promote the coin when I thought it was bogus way back when. I still think it's bogus. I still think it's a scam. I still think Brian is running a giant con, only now he's moving it out of the fiat currencies into these currencies here. And if you are successful, imagine who's going to be really pissed off if you were to raise $5.5 million. Not some locals, not some people that are going to be going to the cops.
Cliff, you're still there?
I'm still here.
Okay, sorry. I thought it froze. Yeah, so also with AR Gold, we're working with a number of other miners as well.
But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, see, because you're not naming other miners. You're using weasel words to try and get away from the fact that everything is linchpinned on him.
I met them today. I met 3 gentlemen today. I met 2 gentlemen on Sunday, and their company is MetalZoomEnergy. They signed an agreement with AR Gold, and they're going to transfer that to MetalZoom because they agree with our
Do you
process.
have an MOU? So you have an MOU?
Yes, they have an MOU currently with AR Gold, and that is going to be rewritten to be with MetalZoom.
Okay, but if they've got an MOU, then he can talk about it. He can present that document. You can name names. Yes. You have a memorandum of understanding about an operation. So what company are we talking about?
MetalZoom.
Okay, and who'd you meet with?
I met with 3 gentlemen today. Their front man was Christo, and then Louis and Dave. Those are the 3 gentlemen, experienced gentlemen that are doing the mining concession in the Boz Congo. They also have a gold trading license. I've seen the license from Boz Congo. That way they can extract about 100 kilos of gold a month from the artisanal miners. And they agree that we should connect those artisanal miners with cryptocurrency payments.
Right. Okay, I understand. All right. So I see what the situation is. All right. So you're attempting at this stage to use the fact that Brian's been able to draw other people in as validation that Brian is legit. Doesn't really wash. I mean, it does not in any way make Brian sound more legitimate. It just sounds like there's some poor Africans that are impressed with all of the glitz of it all and are involved in this as at a end scheme now. Doesn't validate. I mean, basically you can come down to this. Brian doesn't own any concessions. He's buying the production of the concessions from Tanzanian locals. They don't consider any of the locals to be their employees. The $5.5 million is not going to be for the transfer of any ownership of property. It's not going to be for the transfer of any ownership of concessions that are legally let out by the Tanzanian government and for a set period in which you could say, oh, look, we're going to spend $5.5 million and we're going to get a 20-year concession on this mine. Hooray, hooray, hooray. You can't say that. The $5.5 million that you're going to give to Brian out of whatever you raise in your cryptocurrency thing is basically just going to Brian and these other unnamed shareholders. Now, the other unnamed shareholders in AR Gold also are not showing up in records in any of the countries in Africa that you can get records from. And you can actually write emails to a lot of these individuals that are within the government in many countries in Africa, and they're quite happy to respond to you.
Yeah,
So,
AR Gold is registered in Mauritius
okay,
as a
okay.
GPL1. And then
As,
also, so, that's just the first plan is to purchase AR Golds, but then also we're looking at other mid-tier and small-scale mines that we can go purchase and own the concessions on and start producing from those. And we have many projects in line, and we're talking to family offices to also help fund and develop mines from one of the connections is a geologist from Anglo Gold Ashanti. He's retired now. But
sure. You told me that. Yeah. And that's kind of a sort of a name dropping. And in business, that usually is covering the fact that you don't have anything more solid to go on. So let's say, do you have a timeline of production? Do you know when you would raise, given this amount of money, you would go and look at these individuals, these other mines? I know you wouldn't name them under the circumstances because you wouldn't want to alert anybody, et cetera. But you're not posting a timeline on your white paper. Your white paper is, it's marginal at best. It'll list you and a bunch of other names, no LinkedIn, no connections. Okay, Africa is not like the rest of the world. They're not necessarily all connected in here, but you're touting these individuals as being part of the operation. Right underneath your name is Brian Barrett's name, and Brian doesn't have a stellar reputation. In fact, his reputation is anything but stellar in the gold world, and I'm kind of wondering what happened to all of the debt that had accumulated to Afrocan. How was that all settled? Brian must have exceptionally deep pockets. I don't see how you would be able to raise. Let's look at it this way. You were saying 25%. So you need to hold out at least $1.5 million for insurance on your very first deal, which is buying the thing out of Brian. Okay. Just in order to be able to assure that there would be some return to token holders. Personally, I'd never invest in MetalZoom. I didn't want to get involved in even interviewing you this far. I made that clear because people were making misrepresentations that I had in some way some favorable influence towards MetalZoom, which I do not. And now having talked to you, it's like, it's even my worst fears are confirmed. You're probably being duped and you're probably being deluded, and Brian is not a nice guy to be doing business with.
Yeah.
And if he were a nice guy to be doing business with and had done these past deeds, he could atone for the past deeds, or he could say that they were mischaracterized and misrepresented. He does neither. So the silence is acquiescence to the charge. In my opinion, I don't think Brian is very good at running gold mines. It doesn't seem that he's produced much at all anywhere. And I know people that move gold, a lot of gold, wholesale levels. Nobody's ever heard of a successful Brian Barrett venture in golds.
Yeah. There's somebody on, Brian is also chairman of Down South Capital Partners. And one of the managing directors, a part of that is, his name is Dave Lake. He was the deal maker of the year in South Africa. He worked for the Rothschilds in South Africa, and he works with Brian on Down South Capital Partners. And Down South Capital Partners is a mineral development firm working with Minesco to help develop more gold mines and to bring them up the value chain, so to speak. And the most important thing I like to point out is that right now it's almost impossible to get a mid-scale or small-scale mine funded, and that's what we're stepping in and trying to identify the gap in the marketplace and purchase undervalued assets, which in a given situation would never be funded, given the
some
banks.
of which deserve not to be funded, though. So, for instance, the AR Gold does not sound like they're a thriving operation. Doesn't sound like they're in major production. What was their production last month? How much did they haul out last month? You say he's had this thing going for a year. Ask him how much
What was
gold
your production last month? Gold. He said 4,500 ounces.
4,500 ounces. Okay. Personally, I'm calling bullshit on that because I can't find out anybody that's seen AR Golds anywhere on production coming out of Africa. So who was his client for the 4,500 ounces? Who'd they sell to?
They don't sell the gold. They store the gold.
They store the gold.
I don't know why you would sell the gold for debt currency.
Okay, so it's circuitous loop then. They've got a lot of gold, but they never sell it.
Exactly.
And so what they do with the 4,500 ounces? They vaulted it somewhere?
Yeah, they have personal vaults.
They have personal vaults. So he got four and a half
Invest.
thousand ounces. Okay, not a very big production for something worth 5.5 million. I don't think so, Guy. Even at 4,500 ounces a month. But basically, you're saying you're buying his private gold stash method because he's never sold into the market, and that's why he doesn't have a history.
Yeah, I would say we're more buying into the relationships that AR Gold has already set up with the locals, and then we will continue those. We will assume those relationships and continue the production.
Assuming those relationships exist.
Yes.
In a pause. And so basically, here's the thing, Guy, you're buying a goodwill, so to speak. All right. You're buying the relationship. But based on Brian's previous 7 years, all of his relationships have turned to shit because he shat on the people that he was doing business with. So you're buying relationships from a guy who is very bad at building those relationships. So again, there's no value there. MetalZoom is buying shit from somebody who does this repeatedly, demonstrated it as recently as 2016. So would you have him go back and buy the relationship from Vantage? Would you buy that deal? The Lily mine that went bad? Would you buy that? That was a hellacious relationship. And yet you're saying we should trust you that Brian's relationships are good and solid now. And he's working with these good locals and stuff. I think it's a scam, Guy.
Okay.
I think it's truly a scam. And I'm going to have to keep saying I think this is a scam until there's some kind of something that proves it's not.
Okay. So, as I said, we met with the multi-seco gentleman today, and they have a license.
Well, 6, maybe 8 months from now, when you can say MetalZoom has got this relationship and we're doing this, or when you can put your stamp on it, then maybe I can come on out and say, oh, look, I was wrong. But I don't think so. I mean, yeah, you've got nice plans and such, but it's just not going to materialize.
Okay. Well, see, I disagree because with, right size mining, we can go there and start extracting the metal. If you're alluvial
I understand
mining,
right size mining. It's a nice little marketing term. It doesn't get over the fact that your costs are all the same, though. Right size mining doesn't mean you get cheaper diesel. It doesn't mean you buy less expensive equipment. So there's no net gain just because you're using the term right sized.
No. So it's modular equipment, and depending on where you go, you can, if you run out of gold at that spot, you can pick it up and move. So it's
sure. No, I understand the concept. I know people that build those trailers that are all set up for that kind of thing, and they're very expensive, and they're profitable in decreasing production facility kind of operations against a rising debt-based economy. And so they are profitable at that level, I agree. But they're no huge solution to the cost. They're only profitable marginally more. They're only 0.5% more profitable than digging the stuff out in a raw, less clean fashion.
Yeah, and it certainly depends on each mine site is different, right? Each mine site
sure, the quality of the ore, et cetera. Right.
Mm-hmm.
If you're high grading and all of that business. So yeah, I understand. Again, though, I've been around gold a lot in my life. I've never been in the actual production aspect of it, but I've worked it, right? I mean, I've never owned any of it, but I've worked in these things. And so I understand it from that perspective. And Brian is not anybody I'd involve myself with in doing business, especially if it were gold. He does not have a good reputation for this. And it as far as I can see, MetalZoom is just going to crap right out. Yeah, and so I pity anybody that's going to put money into the operation.
The people I've spoken to here in South Africa, Brian has a stellar reputation with those individuals, and those individuals also.
Did you talk to the Lily miners? Did you talk to the Vantage company? Did you talk to any of the employees that were there? Did you talk to any of the people that are saying, "Hey, he scammed me"? I can give you the newspaper articles if you want to go track them down and see.
Yes. I've also read those. Yes.
So you haven't talked to any of these individuals. You've never talked to anybody that said a negative thing about Brian.
No.
Okay, well, see, here's the thing, right? If you want to know who I am, I'll point you at my enemies, and you'll go find out every single bad thing that they've got to say, all right? If you don't go and look for the bad things about Brian, you're never going to see them. Ergo, you're being deluded, and you're basically a willing participant at that level. At least you're not willing to open your eyes and go see that there's negatives attached that you must overcome if you were to be a legitimate business here. Yeah, so I don't think it's gonna go, fella. I've got to take off. Sorry, it was a waste of my time to do this. I knew I shouldn't have. There was nothing there. I hope for you personally for the best. Everybody's karma is their own. I'll see you.